between two great powerful nations, India and China, exists a small but beautiful world of its own, Nepal. A land of mountains, hills, valleys, festivals, diverse culture, and home of different rare flora and fauna. Home to Mount Everest, Nepal is dominated by the world's most imposing mountains. Although the country is relatively small, 80% of its territory is occupied by the dramatic peaks of the Himalayas. About 8 of the world's highest peaks are present in Nepal, which are all above 8,000 meters. It's amazing that within such a small area of land, not even as big as Minnesota, the height ranges from 60 meters above sea level to 8,848 meters. Between these vast heights, there ranges diversity in people's lifestyle, culture, flora, and fauna. Though there is a separate mythological story behind the birth of Nepal, Nepal's recorded history doesn't begin until the start of 800 BC, with the beginning of Kirat period. The ancestors of the Limbus and Rais of eastern Nepal, collectively known as Kiratis, who nowadays provide recruits to Gorkha regiments, a clan known all around the world for its bravery and strength in the British Army Brigade of Gorkha and the Indian Army. After ruling for more than 1500 years, the Kiratis were overthrown by the Lichavis. During this very period, one of the major developments that took place was in the arts and the development of units and coins. Thus, this period of Lichavis is tagged as the golden era in Nepal's history. After the fall of Lichavis followed the Mullahs. This is when a significant development in the sector of arts and culture took place, and it is still evident as the quintessential parts that make up Kathmandu. From temples, monuments, sculptures to everything that describes the indigenous art of Nepal. Following the Mullah dynasty came the Shahas, giving birth to the modern era of the nation. But back in the days, only Kathmandu Valley, which is the capital city, and peripheral regions were known as Nepal. And this is when the founder of this country, Prithvinarayan Shah, made all the difference. The 22 states on the east, 24 states on the west, and the center states were unified by the king Prithvinarayan Shah in 1769 AD. Nepal, as unified even today, is ruled by Shah dynasty. A number of rulers ruled Nepal at different times. During the period of Rajendra Vikram Shah, one of the descendants of Shah dynasty, history took a major turn. Jang Bahadur Rana, a soldier who was dear to Queen, was empowered and was given the title of Prime Minister. He was the founder of what is infamous in Nepal as the Rana Sashan. During this period, prime ministers were more powered than kings. Jang Bahadur displaced the king's supreme authority and started ruling the country himself. Prime ministership from there on became a birthright, paving a secure future for his descendants. During the Rana Sassan, they misused the nation's resources for their benefit and also managed to rule the country for 104 years. This period can be best defined as Black Era because of the nil development. There were many movements against Ranas, but they were all suppressed by them, and it was in the year 1951 that the Ranas were outrooted. After 1951, democracy was practiced in Nepal, which ended after 10 years, and Panchayat system was implemented, where government had been run by a number of interrelated aristocratic families. Even if the Ranas were sidelined, the Dark Age in a way could not be lifted even after their absence in a political level. As government was literally run by the elites, the political parties did exist but operated clandestinely. Eventually, in 1990, with the help of political movements, multi-party democracy was restored in Nepal, but within the framework of constitutional monarchy, which gave way to what is known to us today as a decade-long Maoist conflict. And amidst all this, on June 1st, 2001, Nepal went into a state of shock. Occurred a Royal Nepal family massacre where the King Birendra, Queen Aishwarya, Princess Shruti, the youngest prince Nirajan, along with a couple of other members of the royal family were killed in the family gathering, reportedly assassinated by their own son, the Crown Prince Dipendra. Though several survivors publicly confirmed Dipendra as the killer, the murder still remains a mystery to most Nepalese. In a country where kings are revered as Lord Vishnu, most unthinkable had taken place. Losing their beloved king of all, Nepal mourned for several weeks, unaware of the worst that had yet to occur. By the beginning of the new millennium, the conflict was taking a horrible turn. And after a long hide-and-seek between the government and Maoist rebels, finally on November 21st, 2006, a peace agreement was signed between the rebels and the new democratic government. The conflict took lives of more than 12,000 people. Almost 2 million people were internally displaced, completely changing the face of Nepal. Rebels have been included in mainstream politics and will have an election for Constitutional Assembly in June 2007. Though the conflict between the Maoists and the government was resolved to some extent, after the rebels were included into the mainstream political arena, another conflict involving a fraction of the previous Maoist rebels from the Terai region erupted, which ended with 27 deaths and 49% of seats in Constituent Assembly, paving a way to a proportional inclusion of all underprivileged groups of Nepal. Cornel West once said, "I use the language of decay, decline, and despair rather than doom, gloom, and no possibility, because I think any talk about despair is not where you end, but where you start, and then the courage and sacrifice come in, but at the level of hope, not optimism. Optimism and hope are different. Optimism tends to be based on the notion that there is enough evidence out there that allows us to think that things are going to be better, much more rational, deeply secular. Whereas hope looks at the evidence and says, it doesn't look good at all. Says it doesn't look good at all. Says we are going to make a leap of faith, go beyond the evidence and attempt to create new possibilities based on visions that become contagious to allow us to engage in heroic actions. Always against the odds, no guarantees whatsoever. That's hope. That's hope.